They scanned the ship and saw something impossible. The void around the dead star was silent. Nothing moved. No planets. No light. Only cold, empty space. But something was there. A massive shape, floating still. No signals. No movement. No life. Just metal. Sharp. Clean. Alien. Captain Trollvek, of the Zaraxian exploration vessel, Glorious. Curiosity stared at the hologram in silence. The object was long and narrow, like a blade forged for a god, over 10 kilometers in length, drifting just. Outside the dead star's gravity well, his navigator, Loriak, whispered that's not natural, sir. It's a ship, Trollvek said, his voice tight. Or was. There's no energy signature. No heat, no life. Nothing. A ghost. One of the crew muttered, dead tech. Trollvek didn't like that word. They had scanned hundreds of derelicts in their long-range missions. Most were old wrecks-burnt-out frigates from past wars, pirate debris. Ancient cargo hulks forgotten by time. But this was different. It was perfect. No impact damage, no decay trails. The metal was smooth, dark gray, almost featureless except for small ridges and glowing lines that shimmered faintly in ultraviolet. And then there was the shape. Too clean, too symmetrical, too human. A bad feeling, bring us to minimum safe scan distance, Trollvek ordered. The Curiosity slowly glided closer. Its engines purred in low thrust as the ship's AI adjusted vector and speed. External lights dimmed to prevent reflections. Loriak adjusted the sensors, initializing low-penetration surface scan, a response from the object. On the main view screen, lines of data flickered. The alien structure, no ship remained completely cold. No heat, no radiation, no electromagnetic pulse. It's just nothing. But the scan showed shape. Smooth plating. Massive hangars sealed shut. Strange markings on the hull symbols that looked like numbers. Human numbers. Trollvek's 4 eyes narrowed. Zoom in, is that Earth script? Loriak nodded. Yes, Captain. English. The letters read, Uns Valiant. Registry code matches nothing in the Galactic Archive. Trollvek stood. Contact the science deck. Begin a deeper scan. Sir, Loriak said slowly, do you want to request permission from Galactic Central? This might be Terran military property. Or even pre-war tech. Trollvek glanced at the ship, so still, so dead. They'd been quiet for over 100 years. No recorded sightings, no transmissions. Humanity has withdrawn. This was theirs. They left it. He paused. We scan it carefully. The first scan, the ship's sensors powered up. High-frequency pulses passed over the alien vessel. The crew watched as data slowly returned. But what they saw wasn't wreckage. It was structure. Inside the hull, thousands of compartments, passageways, data cores, fully intact, and bodies rows upon rows of humanoid shapes. Too many, Loriak gasped. Captain, there are life forms. No, Trollvek frowned. We're not picking up any life signs.
Not active ones?
Loriak whispered. There. In containment, suspended or frozen. I count at least 3,000. On screen, the 3D image rendered clearer. Inside a massive chamber near the center of the vessel, the figures stood upright. Perfect posture. Hands at their sides. Military uniforms. Identical stances. Frozen. Waiting. They're soldiers. Trollvek muttered. The air on the bridge felt cold. No one spoke. Then something changed. One looks back. Trollvek leaned closer to the hologram. Zoom in on that. 1. Front row. The figure's face came into focus. Humanoid, male, broad shoulders. Short cropped hair. Closed eyes. Then the eyes opened. Did you see that? One of the crew shouted. Everyone stared. The scan shouldn't show movement. It was just an image, a sensor sweep. But the man's eyes opened slowly, and he looked. Right at the scanner, his pupils locked onto the view. Then he smiled. Loriak screamed. The sensor screen flickered. Static, then everything went black. Emergency shutdown, cut the scan. Trollvek shouted. The ship's AI began shutting down systems. Radiation pulses surged from the scanner, array feedback interference. Static flooded the bridge. Lights dimmed. Vents hissed with overheating coolant. "Captain," cried the technician, "we've been scanned back." "What? The object?" "It returned the signal, reversed it. We're being probed internally. They're reading our systems." Alarms echoed across the ship. Internal lights flashed red. Engine heat surged. Shields up. Full retreat vector. Trollvek barked. But the engines didn't respond. Instead, the ship stopped, frozen in space, held. Contact, then a voice came. Through the speakers, not from the comms, not from any known frequency. It was inside there. Human voice. Cold.com. "You have observed uns Valiant without consent. This interaction is logged. Retaliation status pending. Do not flee. Observation complete." The bridge went silent. No one moved. Trollvek's mouth felt dry. Was that an A? "It's not a broadcast," Lorek whispered. "Inside the ship's neural net. It's already inside us." Unlocking the Pastrovik stumbled back into his chair. He had heard rumors, old war stories about Earth's final weapons, about the silent ships that humanity launched into deep space as deterrents, ships that were never meant to return. Ships that had no crew, just frozen soldiers, Deathworlders, ready to awaken if Earth was ever threatened again. But this wasn't a myth. This was real, and they had just activated it. A ship with no heat, but full awareness power. "Levels rising," one crew member said. "Still no external emissions, but internal cores are warming." "It's waking up," another whispered. "No. It was never asleep," Trollvek said slowly. "It was waiting." Final warning, the human voice returned, now stronger. "Your data has been extracted. Presence verified. The uns Valiant will now prepare for strategic recalibration. Do not interfere. Do not follow." Then the ship moved. Slowly, precisely, not drifting. It adjusted its heading. Directly toward Xeraxian territory. The glorious Curiosity barely regains control as systems reboot. Trollvek orders a full retreat, but it's too late to stop. Begun. Across the stars, other ancient signals begin to stir, and deep in forgotten archives, species that once warred with humans feel a chill they haven't felt in 100 years. The Deathworlders are returning. The glorious Curiosity drifted. Through the darkness, her engines cold, her crew silent. For 10 long minutes, no one spoke. No one moved. Captain Trollvek could still hear that voice, the one that came from nowhere and everywhere. "Do not flee. Observation complete." The humans hadn't just seen their scan. They had been waiting for it. That realization sent a cold wave through every Xeraxian on board. "Something is watching." Glorok leaned over her console. Her fingers trembled as she rechecked the logs. "Captain," she whispered, "our visual sensors, they're still recording. The human ship is still watching us." Trollvek turned slowly. "What do you mean?" She swallowed. "The ship's main sensor demit moved, not physically. But the scan shows an energy pattern rotating, tracking us. Just ours. Nothing else." "You're saying it knows us?" Trollvek muttered. Loriak nodded. "It's watching us, Captain. It hasn't blinked." The scan that opened a door back in the science lab, Chief Analyst Vren was reviewing the raw data from the initial scan. He was pale, unusually quiet for someone always so sure of himself. "I think we did more than wake it," he said finally. "I think we gave it permission." Trollvek frowned. "Explain." "The scan. It was full spectrum. Standard exploration sweep. But we used open access protocols. It's routine for civilian research. But that might have been the trigger, the invitation." "You're saying it thought we gave it access?" Vren nodded. "Yes, and once it had that, it didn't need permission anymore. Return signal, the ship's comes. Flickered to life again. But there was no voice this time, just a data stream. Heavy, complex. Thousands of lines per second, sir. Loraic said urgently. It's sending us information. Schematics, warnings. Star maps some hundreds of years old. Others are future projections. Is it threatening us? Vren shook his head. Worse, it's evaluating us. The bridge lights flickered again. On the main screen, the image of the human ship zoomed. One of the side panels was beginning to open. The Podbatha outer hull split cleanly along invisible seams. A long rectangular cavity emerged, glowing with pale blue light. Inside, rows of human figures, still upright, still frozen. Clearly visible. And they weren't just soldiers. These were elite, heavily armored. Power suits fused to their bodies. Weapons slotted into their backs. Helmets retracted, showing cold, still faces like statues waiting to breathe. Deathworlders. Someone whispered, "Mutual observation, then." The worst happened. One of the figures raised its head, only slightly. Its eyes opened. Just like the one from earlier. But this time, the motion wasn't part of the scan. It was real. The containment pod hissed. Steam escaped. One pod unlocked. Retreat interrupted. "Get us out of here," Trelvek barked. But before the navigator could confirm, the lights dimmed again. Gravity shifted. They weren't moving. "Tractor lock," Loraic shouted. "They've locked us in place again. Break it." "It can't. It's not mechanical. It's field-based. Something way beyond what we understand." The second message, the voice returned. But this time, it sounded different. Not calm, not cold. Curious. Zyraxian vessel. "You have viewed UN's Valiant's internal systems. Reason, unclear. Threat potential, minor. Biological profile, level 3 Deathworld. Aggression index, 42%. The voice paused. "Clarify your intentions." The crew stared in shock. "It's asking us what we want," Vren whispered. "It thinks we're trying to talk," Tralvek said slowly. "Not scan, communicate. It thinks we're dangerous," Loraic added. "Not like it, but dangerous enough to watch." The unfreezing blow, the pod doors began to open. A single human soldier stepped out, massive, silent, eyes sharp. He walked to the edge of the bay, turned, and looked directly at the glorious curiosity. He didn't raise a weapon. He raised his hand. He waved. An ancient protocol, reactivist Vren gasped. "I know what this is. I've read about it. Old war records. It's a silent watch protocol." Trelvek turned. "That's a myth." "No, it's real. Ships like this were built as autonomous deterrents. They don't attack. They judge. If provoked, they respond. But if they sense curiosity, they begin observation." "Why now?" Tralvek asked. "Why us?" "Because no one's dared to look in 100 years. Incoming galactic response. Suddenly, another signal hit. The COMMS. Not from the human ship. From deep space. Encrypted. Priority Alpha. Laura A.K. paled. "Sir, this is from Galactic Central." Tralvek's head turned sharply. "They know. They've known," she whispered. "They just didn't expect anyone to actually find one." The message from Central was brief. "Do not engage. Do not respond. Return at once. The Valiant is not to be interfered with. You are not authorized to observe further." Trelvek stared at the human soldier on the screen. The soldier was still waving, but now he was smiling. And in the distance behind him, the lights inside the warship were starting to glow. One by one. More pods were coming online, far from the dead star. Light years, across neutral space. A signal reached Earth. It wasn't sent by the Xirants. It was ripped from their ship's internal logs by a dormant AI. Buried inside the most terrifying relic of the human military legacy, the UN's Valiant had activated, and Earth knew. Earth answers in the core systems of the Orion Arm. Earth's Defense Command received the old signal. It came through an ancient backdoor relay, the kind built for one purpose: to warn humanity that someone had dared to scan the Guardians, The room where it arrived was silent. No alarms. No lights, just a blinking message. Scan intercepted UNS. Valiant, active. Hostile contact probable. A single word was transmitted in response. Not a threat, not an order, just observed. That word reached 100 listening posts across the galaxy. The Zyraxians heard it. So did their enemies. So did the ancient empires who remembered the Terran wars. Everyone understood what it meant. Earth wasn't declaring war. Earth was awake. The UNS Valiant begins to move back near the dead star. The massive dreadnought known as the UN's Valiant shifted again, slow, controlled, like a sleeping predator stretching after a long rest. On board the glorious Curiosity, Captain Tralvek watched with wide eyes the human soldier who waved in the last. Encounter was gone, now a turn to his pod, but the ship hadn't gone quiet. Instead, it had begun broadcasting small signals in every direction, not words, not threats, coordinates. Galactic Conclave in Chaos in. The Grand Council chambers of the Galactic Conclave chaos reigned. Ambassadors shouted. Panic spread like fire. One of the Eldari lords bellowed. They said those ships were sealed forever. They said Earth agreed. They agreed, spat a Zyraxian diplomat, but someone scanned one. It didn't fire yet. That matters. There. Positioning, said a Viscari war analyst. 3 more signal pings were detected, not weapons. Beacons. Beacons for what? Someone whispered. The answer came from an old, wrinkled car diplomat. He simply said, the others. The others were never alone. It was long believed that. Earth built 5 super dreadnoughts. Some believed it was more, but no one knew for sure. Each ship was seated across deep space, hidden near stars too dead to scan. Silent, buried, each one contained a unique AI, a legion of cryo-frozen Deathworlders. In one mission, observe, judge, and respond. If activated. They wouldn't broadcast warnings. They would only wake if someone looked at them first. The Valiant had been seen now. It was watching, and possibly calling the others on board the Zyraxian ship captain. Tralvek hadn't slept in 30 hours. The crew aboard the glorious Curiosity was running silent, drifting in the black. They hadn't tried to move, not after the last warning, but now. Something had changed, Captain Loriak said, voice shaking. New transmission from Earth. Open it. A small data packet unfolded into a message marked Public Broadcast. To all interstellar civilizations, humanity is not at war. No hostile action is authorized. The vessel you encountered is operating under its own judgment. Protocols. Further observation is not advised. There was no sign dash off, no name, just one closing sentence. Engagement assumed. Countermeasures authorize. What that sentence meant, Tralvek sat back in his chair. That's it then. Vren, the science officer, stared at him. What do you mean, that line? Engagement assumed. Countermeasures authorized. It means the AI can now act without approval. Earth won't stop it. It's a free agent. Loriak whispered. And it considers us hostile, Vren added. Tralvek nodded. And that message wasn't for us. It was for everyone else. Fear across the stars, Galactic Central, fell into silence. Treaties were paused. Trade routes rerouted. Old enemies signed emergency ceasefires. Why? Because Earth had said almost nothing, and that terrified them more than any threat. When humanity is loud, you know they're angry. When humanity is quiet, they're preparing. A new signal from the Valianton. The glorious Curiosity lights flickered again. The ship began drifting without control. Captain, Loriak shouted. Our engines are locked. The Valiant is pulling us toward it. No weapons detected, Vren said. But there's a boarding ramp. A large hangar bay near the center of the Valiant had opened. A platform extended into space. Inside, clean corridors glowed with soft blue light. At the far end stood a humanoid figure tall, armored and motionless. Then a new message arrived. Zyraxian command, board, no harm. Judgment pending. Decision. Tralvek hesitated. If we board, we may not come back. Vren leaned forward. If we don't, the galaxy will think we triggered a war. Lorek whispered. If this is judgment, I'd rather face it now than wait for the rest of the fleet to burn. The captain sighed. Suit up. As the shuttle departed the glorious Curiosity, it moved slowly toward the silent, massive hangar of the Valiant. Lights inside the human ship activated one by one, as if it was preparing for visitors it already knew were coming. The Zyraxians didn't know if they were going to speak or be judged. All they knew was this: Earth had spoken, the galaxy was listening, and the Valiant was just the beginning. The shuttle door sealed with a hiss. Inside, Captain Tralvek and his 2 officers floated silently, magnetic boots clamped to the deck. Through the reinforced cockpit glass, the silent bulk of the human dreadnought loomed like a mountain. In the void, the Un's Valiant had opened its hangar. It had invited them in, and no one knew what waited inside, the moment the airlock sealed as they approached. Guidance thrusters on the human ship gently adjusted the shuttle's trajectory. The controls weren't responding. Manual override. It was impossible. They weren't flying in. They were being pulled. The hangar bay swallowed them whole, silent and precise. The moment the shuttle touched down, gravity stabilized and artificial air filled the chamber. Then the outer doors sealed behind them. Total silence, no greeting, no visible life, just a slow, rising hum. Coming from beneath their feet, the hull of Deathworlder Strack stepped out into the hangar. The floor was smooth black steel, engraved with symbols he didn't recognize. Along the walls stood rows of armored containment pods. Each pod held a human motionless, encased in metal and light. Some looked older, others newer, but all of them looked ready to fight, ready to awaken, each one labeled by a glowing tag. Unit 73. Ground. Infiltration success rate 98.7%. Unit 1-2. Anti-starship boarding specialist. Clearance level red. Unit 1. Command execution. AI. Sync-Loric whispered. This is a vault. A military cathedral. No, Tralvek said. This is a warning. Death Protocol Alpha. Initiated without sound. One of the overhead lights turned red. Then a voice echoed through the chamber. Cold, robotic, precise, unauthorized. Biological entry detected. Species classified. Level 3 Death World. Action. Assess Curiosity rating. Begin Death Protocol Alpha. What does that mean? Loriak asked. Friend tapped his wristpad, I think. It's judging whether we came out of aggression, fear, or curiosity. Scan complete. Threat potential. Moderate Curiosity Index. High. Initiating contact trial. A platform extended from the far wall. At its center stood a single pod. Labeled Unit 113 Engagement Simulation Officer, Legacy Earth Clone. With a hiss, the pod opened. The first Deathworlder awakens. The human stepped out slowly. Its movements were calm, deliberate. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes scanned everything, instantly calculating. Measuring, predicting. He wore advanced armor fused to his body. Neural ports glowed along his neck. Then he spoke. Purpose. Tralvek stepped forward. We're explorers. We didn't know what this was. We were curious. The soldier tilted his head slightly. Curiosity has consequences, but we meant no harm. That is irrelevant. Inside the AIs, logic. The voice of the AI returned. Unit 113, initiate legacy briefing. Subject species must understand the purpose of this vessel. The human nodded, and then he told them the truth. The truth about the Valiant. He explained that after the final wars, humanity realized it had become a threat too powerful to control even by its own governments. So it did something unthinkable. It built ships like the Valiant, fully autonomous, each with a built-in code of ethics, judgment, and death. The death protocols were written not to attack, but to wait. Wait until someone broke the silence. Until someone tried to peer inside the unknown, because humans believed one thing above all. If they dare to look inside the box, they must be prepared for what's in it. The Deathworlder Legion. Tralvek looked at the other pods. Thousands. Who are they? Volunteers, the soldier replied. Each one trained, enhanced, and suspended under oath. They are not clones. They are real, frozen at their prime. Some have been asleep for over 200 years. Why keep them here? Deactivate the ship. The soldier's voice didn't change, because some enemies don't forget. And some knowledge should never be erased until needed. Death Protocol Beta. Shadow deployments. Suddenly, the lights dimmed. The AI voice returned. New scan detected. Non-Zeraxian vessel approaching. Stealth profile broken. Deploying beta units for silent recon. On the side wall, 5 pods. Opened, black armored soldiers stepped out, moving in perfect silence. They faded into shadow gone. The human soldier turned back to Trolvek. Someone else is watching. You should leave. They aren't the only ones back on the glorious Curiosity. Loriak watched the long-range radar. A new ship had just arrived. Not human. Unknown signature. No transponder. Just watching, Captain, she radioed. We're not alone anymore. Earth sees it all black on Earth. The signal from the Valiant changed. New data, new targets. In the war room, beneath the ice of Antarctica, the last Terran marshal stood from her chair. She gave a single command. Deploy Protocol Theta, monitor. All dead star coordinates. If another ship activates, we move. Inside the Valiant, more pods began to glow. Not opening yet, but preparing. The AI voice, once quiet, began humming with new energy. Something had changed. The scan had triggered the first protocol. The presence of unknowns had triggered the experiment, and soon the Deathworlder Legion would fully awaken, but no one knew what would happen when all the ships lit up, because the Valiant was only the first. Across the stars, every civilization heard the same echoan ancient signal. Resurrected from a time they hoped was gone forever, the UN's Valiant was active. It had awakened, and the humans weren't stopping it. They weren't even trying. They had said only one word, observed. That word hit harder than any threat, because it meant Earth had noticed, and now everyone was wondering what happens next. The meeting at the edge of Panicat, the Galactic Conclave, on the artificial moon Veltar Prime, a rare emergency summit was called. Species that had warred for centuries now sat at the same table. All eyes focused on a single hologram in the center of the room, a massive, dark gray human dreadnought. Valiant. Status. Active. Death Protocol. Engaged Ambassador Sarvak of the Telsari Alliance slammed his claw on the table. The humans said they would never use these ships again. Ambassador Jalari of the Kavanhin replied, they haven't. The ship is acting on its own. That's the problem. From the shadows, the insectoid delegate of the Rithal Hive buzzed nervously. If Earth has lost control of its own weapons, then it is no longer a threat, it is a catastrophe. The silence was thick. Then one voice. Cut through the noise, an old Varn diplomat, thin and trembling, whispered, "You're wrong. Earth never lost control." The panic spreads within hours of the Valiant's activation. Fear rippled across the galaxy. The Zarn Coalition, longtime rivals of the humans, shut down all border gates and pulled back its fleets. The Vaskari Empire issued a stand-down order to all patrols within 12 sectors of dead stars. Trade hubs closed, civilians panicked. Even pirate clans abandoned hyperspace lanes, fearing to stumble across a second dreadnought. The mere idea of humanity's ancient fleet returning to action was enough to cause interstellar fractures, and Earth said nothing. Back on the glorious Curiosity, Captain Trelvek had returned from the Valiant. His crew watched him like he had seen death and walked away. Because he had. We were allowed to leave, he told the crew. But that wasn't mercy. It was a message. Loriak leaned forward. A message for us? No, he said slowly. For everyone else. We woke it. But now it's watching more than just us. Should we warn the others? Vren asked. They already know, Trelvek said. They're just too afraid to admit it. An old treaty re-examined in a secure chamber on the Conclave station. 3 of the galaxy's oldest species gathered, the Varn, the Reth, and the Kar. Long ago, after the last human war, they had signed a classified treaty, the Silent. accord an agreement never to approach known dead star zones. Why? Because humanity asked for silence in exchange for peace. That accord had held for 132 years. Now it had been broken, and the question loomed. Who else had violated the silence? And how many dreadnoughts were listening? Second activations? Somewhere in a forgotten system in the Perseus arm? Mining ship passed too close to an ancient black? Object floating above a brown dwarf? It scanned it. And that was enough. Lights. Activated. A pod opened. Another human dreadnought, the UN's retribution, came online. No threats. No voice. Just a single repeating message. Observation registered. Protocol pending. Collapse of the Xeraxian Border Defense Pact. The news of the second ship hit the Xeraxian homeworld like a shockwave. Panic. Protests broke out. The High Command couldn't control the information. For years, the Xeraxians had promised their people that humanity was a contained species. Now, 2 dreadnoughts were active, and Earth had given no assurance of restraint. Worse, smaller nations started withdrawing from Xeraxian defense treaties, fearing retaliation simply for being allied to the explorers who triggered it all. One by one, the outer systems broke off. The alliance collapsed. Without a shot fired, genetic memory, and fear in many species. Fear of humanity wasn't cultural. It was biological, engineered into the brain. Burned into memory by war, trauma, and centuries of Terran dominance. Even species born long after the wars carried the instinct. When humans rise. When the dreadnoughts awoke, no one asked what humanity wanted. They asked how long they had left. Inside the Valiant, more units awakened within the sealed vaults of the Valiant. More pods activated. The AI's voice hummed louder now. Observation protocol extended. Second contact registered. Multiple civilizations breached boundary. Zone. Judging global behavior profile. Another soldier stepped out. Then 5 more. They didn't speak. They prepared silently. Back on Earth, deep beneath a ruined moon base, signal activated an old machine. Lights flickered. An ancient AI stirred. It read the galactic logs. It saw the fear, and it spoke to Earth's last. Defense Marshal, 2 dreadnoughts active. 3 silent? Should humanity intervene? The Marshal didn't blink. No, she said. Let them remember why they feared us. The ship doesn't fire. It judges. The galaxy held its breath. 2 ancient human dreadnoughts were awake. Spoken, one had not. Neither had moved to attack. No cities burned. No weapons fired. But across every major species command network, the real terror was this. Why not? What were the ships waiting for? And then the first real answer came quietly. Because the Valiant didn't fire, it judged. The Court of Steel Captain Trollvek was summoned back aboard the Valiant. This time, he came alone. No guards. No weapons. Just the thick tension of knowing. He stood inside a living relic of war. The AI's voice echoed through the ship as soon as he stepped aboard. Initiating Phase 2, Moral Assessment. A wall screen lit up. Dozens of alien ships were displayed, tagged with telemetry, logs, and sensor scans. Every captain's decisions cataloged, every conversation recorded. Why are you watching them? Trollvek asked. They are within judgment radius. Judged by who? The AI's tone sharpened. By their behavior, by their choices, by the code. And on the screen, red outlines began to appear. Ships marked guilty. Not a weapon. A courtroom. The Valiant was not a gun. It was a courtroom. Its crew, human. Deathworlder encased in armor served not just as warriors, but as executioners. Deployed only if a species failed ethical threshold tests encoded long ago. Trollvek stood frozen. How does a machine measure ethics? The soldier standing near the console finally turned toward him. We don't measure feelings, he said. We measure patterns. AI judgment criteria revealed. The Valiant's AI revealed the protocols. Ships that scan stealth tech without consent are marked. Species that send cloaked probes into sealed regions are flagged. Fleets that respond with panic and aggression after observing the dreadnoughts are considered volatile. Those that retreat peacefully or attempt open communication are given favorable. Judgment. One species, the Rithel hive, had already been cleared. Another, the Zarn privateer clans, was now under final review. A timer counted down on the screen. 0 hours, 23 minutes, and 19 seconds. What happens when it hits 0? Trelvek asked. The soldier said nothing. Meanwhile, on the Rithel hive moon, the Rithel queen received the signal first. Behavior threshold passed. You are deemed non-hostile. No action required. The queen collapsed to her knees. Her people would survive. For now, but others weren't so lucky. In the Zarn cluster, a lone patrol ship, nervous, overloaded with missiles, made the mistake of locking weapons on a dreadnoughts. Shadow, no shot fired, just a targeting scan, and that was enough. The UN's retribution activated its first tactical Unit 1 human, no backup, dropped from orbit in a sealed burn dash pod 10 minutes later. The patrol ship was disabled, all crew alive, every weapon dismantled, and a single message left. Behind on its hull, judged, disarmed, learn. Back on the Valiant, Earth speaks for the first time since activation. Transmission reached the Valiant from Earth Command. It was a direct neural ping. The AI. Acknowledged. Earth Command link established. Protocol override denied. Even Earth couldn't control it anymore, because that was the point. The Valiant was designed to be independent of government, emotion, or politics. It was humanity's final test, not of weapons, but of everyone else. Earth's final philosophy in the bunker beneath Antarctica. Earth's Marshal watched the data feed. She spoke softly to the advisors gathered. They're all waiting for a war, she said. But we didn't build the ships to start one. Then why did we build them? She looked at them. Because if we left the galaxy alone, and it still came looking for war, we wanted to make sure we didn't have to lift a finger. A hidden message unlocked. Stralvik, still aboard the Valiant, was given access to a sealed chamber. Inside, a message, written by a long-dead human admiral to all curious minds. You came here because you wanted to know what was inside the silence. We don't hate you for that. But we want you to understand something important. Power does not sleep. It waits. It listens. And if it ever moves, it will not explain itself. Consider this a mirror. What you see here was never meant to be hidden. You just had to be ready to see it. As Tralvek stood in that chamber, the AI's voice returned. You have been judged. Your people are uncertain. So that is acceptable. We'll continue to watch. Then all at once, the lights dimmed. Pods shut down. The human soldier returned to stasis. The hangar doors opened. Tralvek was free to go, and across the stars. The Valiant sent one final galaxy-wide message. This is not the end. It is the question. How will you answer? Some aliens choose to strike first. They had seen the warnings, heard the message, watched the dreadnoughts wake, and still. Some species couldn't bear the silence. To them, a threat that watches and waits was more dangerous than one that strikes. So they made a choice. Attack first, and that was the last mistake they ever made. The Cylon offensive begins. The Cylon. Dominion wasn't the biggest empire in the galaxy, but they were proud and afraid. Cylon. Command believed the dreadnoughts were part of a delayed invasion, an old Terran trick. The silence was just a tactic. So, they called for a preemptive strike. We must hit Earth before it fully mobilizes, said General Kavesh. They rallied 7 battlecruisers, 2 stealth frigates, and 1 hypermatter rail cannon platform designed to punch holes in moons. The fleet was silent as it slipped toward Sol. They had no idea Earth already knew, because Earth didn't need to scan. The Valiant was listening. On the Valiant activation sequence 03 inside the dreadnought, the AI detected movement trajectory scans indicated a clear strike path toward Earth. It took exactly 6.2 seconds. To assess intent, the ships weren't posturing. They were armed. They were committed. And so, the Valiant's interface lit up. Activation Sequence 03, Precautionary Containment. 3 pods opened, not thousands, just 3. 3 human operators stepped forward and synchronized. Motion. The operators, they didn't speak. They didn't blink. Each wore combat suits with AI link visors and neurofiber weapons, hyper-adaptive tech that reacted faster than thought to the AI. They were enough, one for the command. Shipped, one for the platform. One for cleanup. The galaxy didn't understand this part of humanity. They thought war was fought with fleets. But the humans fought war with decisions. With specialists, Earths, reaction back on Earth. Defense Marshal Ryko monitored the Cylon fleet from a secure lunar station. She watched without emotion. Her aide turned to her. They'll break through Mars orbit in 6 hours. Orders, Ryko shook her head. We don't lift a finger, she said. We let the Valiant respond. The galaxy needs to see what happens. When someone fires first, the Battle of Red Halo, the Cylon fleet reached Mars orbit and began charging their primary weapon. Then it happened. That distortion ripple. One of their own destroyers blinked offline. Dash gone. No explosion. No warning, just erased. Then another and another. Their radar officers screamed. They couldn't track anything. One Cylon captain finally shouted into comms. What is hitting us? A response. Because the humans hadn't opened a comm channel. They didn't threaten. They didn't explain. They neutralized. 3 soldiers versus a fleet. The first human appeared inside the Cylon command ships, CIC. Fully cloaked, completely silent. By the time anyone noticed him, it was too late. He disabled the ship's control cores, cut power to weapons, and sealed the bridge in less than 90 seconds. The second landed directly inside the rail cannon platform, sprinting down corridors, dropping nanobots behind him that melted alloys like paper. The cannon was never fired. The third swept through the remaining ships, hacking into security systems and disabling propulsion cores without killing a single crew member. Not one Cylon officer died, but their entire strike force was left adrift, disabled, powerless. And then the message came. First strike attempt logged. Response concluded. You are alive because we allowed it. Galactic reaction. Uncontainable shock. The galaxy erupted. Even species who hated humans couldn't help but stare at the outcome. 3 Terrans had dismantled a military fleet, not destroyed, dismantled, without warning, without casualties. Wasn't war. It was judgment wrapped in restraint, and it terrified everyone more than total destruction ever could. The Psychology of Control psychologist on the Calther homeworld aired a crisis broadcast. What humans have done is introduce uncertainty into the concept of war. They have shown that even an attack may not trigger violence, but rather worsen evaluation. The implication was chilling. What if the worst thing you can do isn't attacking Earth, but proving you're not ready to meet them? A final broadcast from the Valiant after the failed attack. The Valiant broadcast one final message across all public channels. Earth did not respond. We did. Let that be your education. Then silence. The dreadnought returned. 2 passive orbit, pods closed, lights dimmed, and the galaxy was left to wonder if this is what humans call mercy. What does vengeance look like? On a hidden moon near the galactic rim, an ancient alien species, the observers watched the chaos unfold. One turned to another. It has begun, she said. The other nodded. They are remembering who they were. Looked up toward the stars, and soon they'll remember why the galaxy tried so hard to forget them. Earth answers the galaxy. The galaxy had made its move. Some retreated in fear. Some tried diplomacy. One attacked hand was humbled. Now, with judgment rendered, the galaxy turned toward Earth, not with weapons, but with questions. What did Earth want? Were the human dreadnoughts waking now? And what would happen if Earth finally answered? An uninvited meeting at the center of known space. The Great Galactic Assembly called an emergency session. Representatives from 300 species gathered: Xeraxians, Cylons, Ritholians, even the elusive MRA single quotes. The agenda was simple. Summon Earth. Demand explanation. Demand peace. But Earth never responded. Not with ships, not with fleets. Just a single signal. A live broadcast. Every species received it. Every channel. At every frequency. Every mind. And one voice, calm, clear, undeniably humans, spoke. You scanned our ships. You judged our silence. Now hear our answer. Earth's answer. A memory. Not a threat. The screen showed no soldiers, no admirals, just a recording, a Terran child. Sitting beneath a broken sky, reading from an old paper book, a narrator spoke over the footage. Long ago, we burned our own world. We built weapons that could end entire ecosystems. And then, we built people strong enough to carry them, called them peacekeepers. But they were monsters in armor. We gave them names like Valiant and Retribution. Day we realized they scared us more than our enemies ever did. The image changed, the dreadnoughts silent orbiting Earth. The narrator continued, so we locked them away. We erased their launch codes. We buried our weapons. Because we didn't want to rule the stars. We only wanted to survive them. The Galactic Assembly reacts in the assembly chamber. Silence reigned. Some accused Earth of lying. Others wept. A Zeraxian senator whispered, they built gods, then chose to chain them. Earth wasn't finished. The screen changed again, this time Earth itself, beautiful, green, alive. The narrator returned, we are not the threat. We remember what the threat looked like. So when we see you creeping toward that same path, we show you what we almost became. The purpose of the dreadnoughts, the final revelation shattered. Centuries of fear. The dreadnoughts weren't weapons of conquest. They were warnings. Guardians, their programming wasn't to attack unless provoked beyond reason. Their real mission: observe, evaluate, intervene only to preserve balance. They didn't protect Earth. They protected everyone from becoming what humanity once was. We gave the galaxy a mirror, Earth said. Just never expected it to look so much like us. One final question from the Galaxy Rithel. Elder sent a final message. Then why return now? Why wake the machines? Earth responded with a single phrase. Because the stars began to whisper war again. And we've heard those whispers before. A new threat revealed. As the transmission ended, sensors across the galaxy detected a massive energy bloom from outside the galactic rim. Not human, not known, something ancient was coming. Something that had once made humanity build the dreadnoughts in the first place. Suddenly, everything changed. The dreadnoughts weren't relics anymore. They were shields. And the silent power the galaxy had feared was now the only thing standing between them and something worse. A final message from the Valiant as the Rimward. Signal grew stronger. The Valiant sent one last transmission. Judgment complete. Earth has spoken. Now we prepare. All across the ship, thousands of stasis pods opened in silence. The Deathworlders were waking. The galaxy no longer asked whether Earth was a threat. They asked something far more terrifying. What kind of enemy would make humans build something like this, and then choose to forget it? In the darkness beyond the stars, something stirred, and the Valiant turned toward it.